Okay, welcome to this video. We're going to carry on from where we left off last time. We had a form last time and we had some JavaScript which validated the inputs. So if I just quickly go through, and I only put two things in, click submit, my JavaScript has picked up I've got no email address, no password, etc. So if I put them all in, I had to have 6 characters. I had to have uppercase, a number and lowercase. So I've got them done. Now everything's okay, click OK. And that's it. So that's how it works. I'm running localhost and I've currently got all my information being displayed up the top here, which I don't really want, but we'll look at dealing with that in a little while. Okay, so what you should see, if I go back, I'm actually running this from the local host. So what does that mean? Well, I've got a local web server effectively running on my machine. I'm using a facility called XAMPP. I've got the Apache service and the MySQL service running, and this behaves like a web server, but it's based on your local machine, and it's what most people use when they're developing websites, particularly websites that are going to store information or going to run PHP script, because as we know, PHP runs from the server, not from the client. Okay, so I've got that running. I've clicked on the admin button for my SQL, so that enables me to create a database, and I'm going to show you that now. If I click on that, what will happen is PHP my admin will appear. At the moment I haven't got a database for what I need set up, so I'm going to create one. I'm going to call it form test and just click on create, and there it appears. I'm now going to create a table within there where I can store my information. So what information do I need to store? Well, I need to store the forename, the surname, the email and the password. So I'm going to use SQL to create it. We're going to use a lot more SQL as we go through. With SQL, I tend to use capital letters for the commands. So I've got create table. I'm going to call the table member, and then I need to put in the fields. So the fields I've got, as we've already said, I've got forename, so I'm going to call it members forename. So I'm going to use some abbreviations here. I'm going to create it with tiny text. That's 255 characters, and I want to make sure there's an entry every time a record's created, so I'm going to say not null. I'm going to do the same for everything else. So I've got members surname, again tiny text, and not null. Then members email, again the same size. And then finally the password. Well, it's not finally because we need to add something else, but we're going to do the password. Call it members password, and I'm going to use long text for this. Again, not null. You might think, well, if a password's only 6, got to be a minimum of 6 characters, and people are only going to probably enter up to 12 characters. In fact, I don't need the comma there, I've just seen that. Why have I made it long text? Long text will give me millions of characters, which I don't particularly need. But what I do need is I need to make sure it's big enough, because I'm going to encrypt or hash the password. So my original 6 to 8 characters, which I might enter for my password, after the encryption is going to be 256 512 characters in length as an encrypted entity. So I need to make sure I've got plenty of storage space for that encrypted password. Okay, there's one thing I need to add in as well. Tables need to have a primary key, and we're going to create a members ID, and again we'll have this as an integer, and we'll say we want it to be 11 digits long. We're going to auto, if I could spell, we're going to auto increment. It's going to be our primary key. And again, we don't want that to be null either. So when we create a record, the system will generate the members ID. The rest of the information we're going to take from our form, and each record, when it's created, must have all of these fields, so they can't be, none of them can be null or empty. From time to time we may create a record or have a table where when we create records we might not have all the information, so in that case fields may well be null when the record's created. Okay, so I think that's done. I'll click on go, and that should set that up for me. So now I've got my database called form test and my table in there called member. If I click on there, see I've got no data at the moment. You can see my structure is just as I want it. Okay, so our database is set up, ready to receive our information. We've got our form ready for the user to enter the information and generate it. What we need now is to get from the form to the database. So still a little way to go. Here's our HTML for our form, and one thing I need to do before I forget is I need to give the button a name. I don't need this immediately, but I will need it very shortly. So submit button has gone in there, or submit BTN. Now if you remember, when I hit the button, my JavaScript, as we've just seen, gets run. This is through this function here, this validate function, which is in my JavaScript. That returns either true or false. If it returns false, the user can go back and edit, change, put right what was wrong in the form. If it returns true, then this action gets executed. At the moment we have nothing there. So the next thing to do is to get this bit working. So I'm going to create a PHP folder, and within my PHP folder I'm going to create form process.php. Okay, now what I'm going to do in here is, just to make sure I know it's working, I'm going to create some PHP script, and I'm simply going to put in the echo statement or echo command and say hello from form process.php, and we see all I've done this for is so that when I'm going to run my form in a minute, I'm going to check that I actually get to this script. So I'll save that, go back to my index.html. So I need to tell it that the action I want to do is to run that PHP script. So I need to select it, so I'll find the PHP folder and then the file. So I've got that set up. If you remember, we saw a second ago we don't want this information from this form to be sitting in our URL, and if I do this incorrectly, that's what's going to happen. So I need to say what method I want to use, and it selected it for me. I want to use the post method. That will mean that I will pass the information from this form to my PHP script without it being visible. The other option I have is the get method. The get method will make that visible. So just as we saw a few minutes ago when the data appeared in the URL, that is what would happen if I use the get method. So I need to save that now. Okay, I think I've got everything done. I need to go here now. I haven't got live server running now, I've got localhost, so I need to refresh that. So that's cleared everything out of there. So now if I type in again my information, we should see that. Okay, got my email done. As I was saying, we should see that that PHP file will load up. Just make sure I get all the information correct. And if I click submit, there's my JavaScript, that's still working, and lo and behold, my PHP file has been executed, and I've got my message that I put in my PHP script. Okay, so we have things set up now. We've got our form, that when it's executed, our form goes to our PHP script. We have our database set up, waiting for the information from the PHP script to be put into the database. I'm going to break there, and then in the next video we'll look at how we actually transfer all that data.